Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
Dana White's Contender Series was off the chain last night. That's the first thing I want to say on today's podcast. Dana White's Contender Series was off the chain last night. 4 guys getting contracts, 2 finishes, 2 split decisions, and a big decision at the end of the night as well. So 3 decisions, 2 finishes. Sounds crazy on the surface, but the drama last night was interesting, and I'm almost in the middle on which way to start the podcast today. But let's just do this. Let's scratch the surface of some of the topics that are trending, and we'll get into some of the reactions from last night, talk about who's in, who's not. But number one, Machine Gun Kelly angers idiot UFC star Sean Strickland with a rant on Logan Paul's podcast. So what did Machine Gun Kelly say? Why are him and Sean Strickland beefing? Why are they going back and forth? What's going on? We're going to get into that on the show. Stay tuned. Dana White defends Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic fight. Oh my gosh, I knew this topic was coming.
I told y'all, baby.
Right? You haven't heard anything about it. Where are the reporters? What's going on here? And then all of a sudden, it's just back.
Just like that.
I mean, it's back in the news. You know, I've been a critic of this fight. Why is Jon Jones fighting Stipe Miocic?
Dana White privilege.
That's why. But at the same time, let's just get the fight over with. Like, let's get this thing booked. Let's make it happen. But Dana White decided to go back and forth after Contender Series last night with the reporters, even sitting back down for like 11 minutes, which I love. This is what I love about Dana White. Even if you hear me criticize him, it's just part of it. I love it. I mean, I love it, man. The fact that he comes back and sits down and goes back and forth with the reporters, I think that's really cool, man. I really do. I think that's what you do as the president of a big sports organization. It shows respect to the reporters. It shows you backing fighters and wanting to get, the information out there and all that. It's just great on both sides. Also, Joe Rogan marvels at UFC champion Leo Topuria's phenomenal technique. Who won it? Who won it? And I can't believe this story. Kamaru Usman credits, am I reading this right? Kamaru Usman credits Colby Covington for being a great dance partner. Oh my goodness. It's like the world has come to an end. What is this? This has to be a joke, right? Yeah. Those are my thoughts. Exactly. But let's begin with Dana White, because we're going to get into that and then get into some of the reactions from last night. But basically, you had Dana White getting ready to lead the press conference last night after the Contender Series. And then he sat back down and he got into a back and forth with the media or reporters over Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. And whether, from Dana White's perspective, the reporters really believe that Jon Jones isn't number one for pound for pound. He's defending why he has to, not that he has to, but why he's setting this fight up. Saying it wasn't Stipe Miocic's fault, in so many words, that Jon Jones had to pull out. So what do? Just pull the fight from Stipe? We get all that. We get all that. But the fight shouldn't have been set up in the first place. It was clear that Tom Aspinall was on the rise. Yeah, we threw some guys at Tom Aspinall, hoping he'd get knocked off his pedestal, but it didn't happen. In fact, he actually only upped the ante even more by KOing 2 guys in the first round. I believe, right? Someone fact check that. I'm pretty sure the last 2 fights, wasn't it Curtis Blades and Sergey Pavlovich? Weren't those both in the first round? Well, I hope I'm right. So, those, you know, so they're going back and forth. Dana White said at one point, "What do I do?" A guy who was looking as the greatest heavyweights in the UFC, the fight is set up. Jon Jones gets hurt. It's not his fault. He has to wait and go back into training camp again. He was training. So do I just yank it away from Stipe? Right? So all this is going on. And my thing is, the fight shouldn't have been, it's not about yanking it away from Stipe, which now, if I'm Dana White, I'm doing the same thing. We can't go back in time. So yeah, now you're, see, and that's the thing, and that's why we say don't book the fight in the first place, because now you're caught in this mess. You're constantly caught in the mess of Jon Jones, you know, whether in this case he gets hurt, okay, it hasn't been like that. It's always been that way. But there's times where he didn't fight in over a year and defend the light heavyweight belt and so on, you know, so on and so on. So now you're stuck in this mess where Stipe hasn't had a win in what, 4 years, and he's supposedly the best UFC heavyweight ever and all this stuff. But then in the next breath, Jon Jones is #1 pound for pound of all time, Dana White would tell you. So how is Stipe then the best heavyweight of all time? Jon Jones is. He won the belt and he's the best ever, right? So he's okay. So you can't be the best ever over all things and not the best ever over that one individual thing. To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. If you're the best #1 according to Dana White, then you're the best heavyweight. So why are we fighting Stipe and trying to, you know, prop him up and say he's the best heavyweight of all time? I'm confused. I'm very confused. Dana White's still saying I have 2 legends of the sport that wanted to fight each other. Yeah, but what if Tom Aspinall is the legend in the making? I mean, he's running through some big-time heavyweights. Now, listen, I think Jon Jones wins the fight. Although I have to look at it harder and harder, you know, see how the Stipe fight goes. But from what I remember 2 or 3 years ago, Stipe was on the decline then. I don't know what's going on now. So if he sticks in there with Jon Jones, then we got to start questioning, can Tom Aspinall beat Jon Jones? Maybe. So I might have to come back on that, but that's where it's at. So, you know, last night you had some great fights, man. Like, for example, first guy getting in, Malcolm Wellmaker, 8-0, bantamweight fighter, got the KO in the first round, and we had fun with this one last night. Check this out. Seems to me like Wellmaker's getting off pretty early here. The only thing from Bramhall so far is the kicks. The only thing Wellmaker's got to be worried about, but at the same time, he's got more power to me, and his punching down. It's always a big factor halfway through round 1. Oh, and a big right catches Bramhall. And that's it. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And he turns right to Dana White, and Dana White is just like, wow. Okay. Dang, and both guys come together, but Malcolm Wellmaker is going to get the huge KO victory here at the Contender Series. And already this is going to be a tough night. It doesn't even matter what happens in the next 3 fights. This is going to be a tough night for Dana White to make picks, and I hope he just goes for it and just gives out 6 contracts. Because both guys in the first fight deserve it. Then you get a big bantamweight finish here. And already the Contender Series and Dana White are beefing up the lower weight classes. I mean, that's what we're seeing up and down the first 3 weeks here. As we had a great flyweight fight, now a big bantamweight fight that sees Malcolm Wellmaker move to 8-0. So in back-to-back fights, we got 8-0 fighters. And you see here, Bramhall comes in and he was throwing a left and just took the right. And that's a wrap. And we were wrong on this one. I mean, Bramhall is no slouch. The guy's 13-2. And Wellmaker, the American, I like that, comes in. Bantamweight division moves to 8-0 here at the Contender Series. Impressive. Yeah, so we were wrong on that prediction, but listen, I like that it's an American undefeated fighter. Find that interesting. Wellmaker opened my eyes last night for sure. For sure. And then also you had some other really good fights as well. Like Marco Tulio doing his thing, getting the big finish. Tulio continues to apply pressure here. 235 left, round 2. Oh, and a nice left by Duclos. But he's getting tired, it seems like. Oh, he takes a big right. Ooh. And I'm not sure how Tulio landed that, but he's going to get the finish. Was that a spinning back kick, spinning back elbow? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. And we got this one right. This guy's 11-1, now 12-1. The Brazilian, you already know how I feel. And this is the first of 2 big middleweight division fights tonight. And we very likely are going to get 2 new middleweight fighters. That will be 3, I believe, on the season, if both guys get it. But Marco Tulio, definitely deserving. The Brazilian moves to 12-1 here, middleweight division. Dana White's Contender Series. Yeah, so that's another guy getting in there. You have Bogdan Grad get in there. And Andre Puliev, who's a middleweight. So just last night, you had a featherweight, a bantamweight, and 2 middleweights. So just 2 of the 4 lower weight classes, but the lower weight classes are definitely beefed up. Dana White would not give out 6 contracts, right? He would give out 4. But that's still, I mean, 4 every week. You got 12 new UFC fighters and 7 weeks to go. I mean, this thing is interesting. And then, of course, again, you get to the press conference afterwards. It's just, you know, you're expecting him to talk about Contender Series, which he does, right? But then the reporters got him out there, so now you're on the hot seat, and now they're trying to throw other things in there, and it ends up being a great discussion because it's Dana White. Because it's Dana White. I love it. I love it. But also, you got the big beef, I guess you would call it, right? Between MGK and Sean Strickland, right? These 2 going back and forth, cross paths at a slap fight. Is that what they call it? I don't watch it. Slap fighting event. And since then, they've been going back and forth. But finally, MGK responded on Impulsive, right? Saying, I do nothing but commit myself to art. And there's another funny factor of just like the art of me standing or existing makes people furious. So that's MGK. Strickland coming back later on X saying, getting lectured by a guy who drinks. Yeah, I'm not even going to say that. Getting lectured by a guy who wears a purse. So you had a midlife crisis and tattooed your entire body, basically. So, you know, Sean Strickland's a guy that's known for going right in. MGK's an artist. So, you know, it's like both of these guys have some type of verbal ability, if you will. And I don't see this ending. I mean, MGK kind of alluding to the fact that he's going to kind of step back and let Sean Strickland, you know, make himself look bad, if you will. You know? So we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, these 2 are going back and forth. And the reason why I wanted to comment on it is because I know Sean Strickland is not going to back off at all. I'm more curious if MGK is going to keep engaging. But that's where we're at. You know, it's just one of those things. But interesting. Very interesting. Joe Rogan marvels at UFC champ Ilia Topuria's phenomenal technique. As I said earlier, who won it? He's looking great. Rogan saying recently on a podcast, one of the things that is phenomenal about him is his technique. Right? His technique is perfect. And yeah, I mean, I think Ilia Topuria is going to be a problem for a while. It'll be interesting to see where he goes next. But, you know, got Max Holloway to deal with. Just saying. It's not the same Max Holloway at lightweight. I don't get it. But it's still Max Holloway. So, you got to be a little worried about that. Can't wait for that. But yeah, Ilia Topuria is a bad dude. He's a bad dude. And the story of the day that I couldn't believe that I was reading, right? Couldn't believe it. Kamaru Usman credits Colby Covington for being a great dance partner. Meaning another fighter that ends up giving you such a good fight that it makes you better. Now, who knows how Colby will take that, right? Because it's still like, okay, you know, he beat you. Or at least that's how the judges, or no, he beat you in the first fight. Argued he got stopped early. Then the second fight is what it was. But Usman saying recently on a podcast, in that first fight, there was so much tension. So it challenged me so much to prepare, to train, and to go out there and just get locked into the zone. You know, so, and then he goes on to talk about the zone. So, and yeah, I mean, you know, you see this before with guys who are, and listen, they're still both fighters, anything could happen. But guys who are like sworn to not like each other, and they go to battle, and it's a great fight. I mean, it went into the 5th round both times. So listen, they're both really good fighters, obviously. So, you know, it's not odd for them to come back years later, and especially when they're both done with their career here, and let's say 5 to 7 years from now, they'll come back and might even be closer after the fact. You know, because now it's like, okay, we're not fighting anymore. We did what we had to do then, and now you can kind of relax and drop the barriers a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if you hear more from both guys as time goes on. But Colby Covington isn't a guy that's going to do that right now. He's still believing he can win the title. But I'm certainly concerned because you just don't see him. I mean, what's going on with Colby? Colby's always waiting for he'll wait, man. Colby will wait for the opportunity and boom, get a title shot, but he's got to beat somebody, and I don't know who that somebody is because there's a lot of guys on the way up right now. And it's like you definitely don't want one of these young bucks like Ian Gary or Shavkat Rakhmonov. I mean, ooh. So he's just waiting for the right, you know, he needs to beat someone that's relevant. Okay, maybe Sean Brady beats Gilbert Burns. I could see that. Because Colby will think that he can beat Brady, and then if he beats, you know, Brady gets a big win over Burns, then Colby beats Brady. Now it looks like he's back up, and he's ready for a title fight, and he gets it and avoids Ian Gary and Shavkat. That makes sense to me. Now I don't see Colby coming out and saying that, but I'm just telling you, listen, at the same time, you're trying to get back to a title shot until those days are gone. And while they're still right here in front of you, you certainly are going to be thinking about the best avenue to make that happen. Some guys will just fight 3-4 times in a row or in a year, but eventually they'll lose 2 of those in that year and they'll start to slide in the rankings like a Jared Cannonier right now. And it's just like sometimes you got to wait for that perfect opportunity that you know is good and to keep you on top. And Colby's a master at that. I don't care what anybody says. Guy's a master. But yeah, that's what's going on in the UFC, man. A couple topics. We wanted to get into it right quick, if you will, and get in and get out. So I hope you guys have a great day, and God bless, and as always, peace.